G'day folks, my name is Sean and this is Air Photography. Yesterday we got some interesting news from GoPro, and that is they've expanded GoPro Labs to support many new cameras. GoPro Labs now supports the GoPro Max, the Hero 9 Black, and even the Hero 7 Black. If you're not quite aware of what GoPro Labs is, basically it's a set of experimental features that you have to opt into by downloading some special firmware. In this video we're going to go over what GoPro Labs is and how to use it. We're also going to go over some of the new features they added with this latest update. So let's just jump right in and take a closer look. So GoPro Labs was introduced about a year ago, originally for the Hero 8 Black. As mentioned, as of yesterday, it now supports a multitude of different GoPros, such as the Max, the Hero 9 Black, and the Hero 7 Black. Now, in order to make use of these new features, you do have to download some special firmware. Now, this firmware is not available over the air via the GoPro app like you would normally get your firmware. You actually have to go to the GoPro website, download it manually, and install it manually. And we'll kind of go over that here in a minute on how to do that. So in order to get GoPro Labs on your GoPro, you do have to go to the GoPro website, and basically you just want to go to gopro.com/labs. Once you type that into your web browser, you're going to get this page here. It gives you a couple options here, but if you're wanting to download the firmware, what you're going to do is go to Get Started. You can see here it does give us a list of all the cameras that are supported. So if you're going to be installing this on your Hero 9 Black, you're going to go to the section for Hero 9 Black. If you want to put it on your GoPro Max, you want to go to the Max section. So we're going to go here to Hero 9 Black. If you're running this on a PC, what you want to do is download it to somewhere on your computer. It's going to be downloaded as a zipped file, so once you have it on your computer, you're going to want to unzip it. Once it's extracted, you're going to see a file called Update. That's the folder we want to use to update our GoPro. At this point, you're going to want to remove the memory card from your GoPro. You're going to use some form of card reader, and then you're going to plug that into your computer. At this point, you want to copy that update folder over to the memory card. You want to make sure you put it in the root directory of the memory card. Basically, that just means the top level. You don't want to copy it into any folders. Then you're going to take your memory card, insert it back into the GoPro. Once you have the memory card inserted, you just simply want to power on your GoPro. The GoPro is going to detect that there's new firmware on the memory card, and it's going to go ahead and install it. It takes about 30 seconds to install the GoPro Labs firmware. Once it's done, the camera will just boot up like normal. You'll know it's installed correctly because the next time you go to power on your GoPro, you can see there that it has the GoPro Labs beta firmware listed. So this Hero 9 Black is now set up to use some of these experimental features. Now all these new experimental features are not in the user interface. GoPro uses QR codes to enable these features, and we'll take a look at that here in a minute. So let's take a look here at some of the new features that are included with this latest update. They've added IMU motion triggers. Now they've had motion triggers in the past. For example, last year you could set a motion trigger using the GPS. So you could mount your GoPro on something like a motorcycle, and it would start recording once the GPS detected that the GoPro was moving at, say, 10 kilometers an hour. The other motion trigger was if it detected motion in front of the lens. So say you're using it kind of like a trail cam and something moved in front of the lens, it would start recording. Once the motion stopped, it would stop recording. But now they have IMU triggers. So it's going to make use of some of the sensors in your GoPro, so when the GoPro moves, it's going to start to record. The next one here is USB power triggers. So how that works is the instant you plug your GoPro into some kind of external power, it's going to turn on and start recording. GoPro did give an example of that it's good if people want to use this as a dash cam. You can have your GoPro plugged into a power port on your car. As soon as you start your car up, the GoPro is going to power on and start recording. So some of the other features that they have here, they have listed maximum shutter angle, exposure lock. The other option here is called archive mode, and basically what that does is it locks the GoPro, so all you can do is stop and start recording. And then there's a couple other things here. You can set up live streaming QR codes, so you can just scan a code and it will get all set up for live streaming. The other thing here it lists is GPS time synchronization. And if you keep scrolling down on that page, they do give you a lot of examples on how to use it. There's a couple different ways in which we can generate the QR codes needed to set our camera. First of all, we can use a tablet or a smartphone and navigate to the GoPro website where they host these QR codes on GitHub. There's also a dedicated app that we can use. However, the app hasn't been updated to include some of the new features that were launched yesterday. I'm sure an update will be coming soon to include those new features. So let's go ahead and we'll test one out here. First off, we're going to test the IMU motion triggers. So let's click on that there, and it's going to take us to the QR generator. as you can see here. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger so you can read it on the screen. You can see here it gives us a couple different options. It asks us what kind of sensor do we want to trigger the motion. We can use the gyro, the accelerometer, or both, and by default it's selected at both. We can select the start sensitivity and the end sensitivity, so that's basically how much motion there is before it triggers the recording. We can also set a time delay for the start, and hold time, basically that's when it's going to stop recording, how long before it stops recording. The last option here is to repeat the IMU trigger, and that basically just means every time there's motion, the GoPro will start recording. If we take the check mark out of there, it'll only work once. It'll detect motion, start recording, it'll stop recording once the motion stops, but if there's motion again, it won't record again. So once you have it set the way you want, you just want to get the QR code in front and center, and then all you're going to do is point the GoPro at it. You can see there we got a check mark. We have some information on the screen there, and basically that's the motion that it's detecting. Right now we haven't triggered the recording because we haven't moved it enough. But watch once I do this, you can see there it's now starting to record. Once I stop, you can see it goes into a countdown and stops recording. Again, it'll just sit there and scan for motion. Once we move it again, you can see there it starts recording again. So as you can see, that could come in handy for many different situations. And as I mentioned already, there's different types of motion recordings that you can set it. The one we just did there is using the IMU on the camera to detect motion. The other motion types you can set it is if there's motion in front of the lens, or by using the GPS and setting a speed motion. Now you can combine multiple options into one QR code. For example, we just set the motion options there, but you can also go in and set your resolution, the frames per second, all kinds of different parameters, and still only have one QR code. Now I've just gone ahead and restarted my GoPro, so it's no longer going to use that QR code. If we want to reset it, all we'd have to do is rescan it again. So let's go ahead and we'll check out another one here. Let's do the USB power trigger. That's the one where if it detects that it's plugged into USB-C, it's going to go ahead and power on the camera and start recording. So let's go ahead and scan the QR code. You can see it's picked it up there. And now it's going to shut down the GoPro until it detects that it's been plugged into power. You can see here the GoPro is powered off, but we're now going to plug it into the power bank. And we should see the GoPro power on here in a minute and go in and automatically start recording. There you go. You can see it's powered on. And there it is. Now it's recording. Now we're going to go ahead and unplug it here, and we should see the exact opposite. It should stop recording and then go ahead and power off. You can see there we got a message that said USB disconnected. And there we go. You can see there by the option it did have a 10-second delay. So that means if you're using this as a dash cam and you turn your car off, it's going to continue to record for 10 seconds or whatever you set it for. Now it's still in that USB detection mode, so you could just leave it in this mode and it will just continue to work just like it is. If we go ahead and manually power it on, it's going to forget that setting and just be like a normal GoPro again. Now those were just a few examples of some of the things you can do with the GoPro Labs. I highly recommend that you go in and take a look and see what all you can do. Now one last thing I do want to kind of go over with you here before I go is another handy feature of using these QR codes. And that is basically it allows you to change settings on the fly very quickly. And as mentioned, there's an app you can download. As you can see here, it has our QR code. For example, let's just set one here, camera mode. We're going to set it to video. I'm going to set the resolution to 4K. I'm going to turn stabilization on. Frame rate at 60 frames per second. So at this point you can see our QR code is there and we can scan it at any time. We can also save them as an image to our camera roll, and that way we always have them at our fingertips to scan quickly if we need. You can give the preset a descriptive name so you know what it does, but we can go into the settings further. For example, we can slide over to ProTune and we can set various ProTune settings. They have different preferences like turning on GPS, turning on and off Wi-Fi. There's a second column of preferences. We have delayed capture, motion detection, all kinds of different things we can set. As you can see here, I've already made a few. I've got them labeled there at the bottom. So here I've got one at 4K 60 with a linear field of view. I've made another one there at 4K 30 in a linear field of view. And there's one at 4K 60 in a wide field of view. So this comes in really handy if you change settings a lot when you're filming. Instead of going through the touchscreen, changing modes, you can just scan your QR code really quickly. I've seen people actually print these and have them attached to their camera bag. You can get really creative with them. The other thing this works well for is, say you have 2 or 3 GoPros and you're going to be capturing a sequence from different angles. Instead of going in and setting every single camera to make sure all the settings are the same, you can just take your GoPros 2, 3, 4, 10, scan one QR code, and all the cameras are going to be set exactly the same. So I'll just show you quickly how easy this is. You can see here I'm currently at 4K 60 wide, but I've got a QR code here for 4K 60 linear. You can see there I just scan it, and it's now changed it to 4K 60 linear. We'll put it over at the 4K 30 linear. You can see the camera's changed. Now I don't have it set to start automatically recording. This is just changing settings. And then again, we can go back to our 4K 60 wide. And there you go. So even using GoPro Labs in this very basic format just for changing settings quickly on the fly, it's a pretty valuable tool just for that alone. Well folks, that's basically it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it and got some value out of it. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And we'll see you in the next one.